I'm Marylin Metcalf. I lead our benefit risk evaluation team at GlaxoSmithKline, and I sit on our safety board. So I help our teams that are developing medicines and monitoring them throughout their entire life cycle for safety and for benefit versus risk. So I am here because I think this is a fantastic group and a great opportunity to be on the ground floor of an initiative that takes a lot of the dialogue that we've been having in the external environment with patient groups, with other stakeholders, and brings it to a next level where we're talking more about concrete steps. I think patients want to be more at the table as equal partners, and a lot of times they're still seen more as customers. It's always they, outsiders, and obviously, the whole healthcare system is about patients. Each of us is a patient at some point. Each of us is a caregiver at some point. We have family members who are patients. So patients being part of a discussion that says, I don't want my disease to define me. As sociologists, we talk about master roles, and you sort of, if you find out certain things about people, you sort of let that define everything about who they are, and that's what you think of when you see them. Nobody wants to be defined that way. We do that because it's a shortcut, but it's not really the way that you interact with a person when you get to know them and you see them as a whole person and take them seriously. I think patients want to be part of a broad discussion at the table around the things that affect all of us. We suddenly realize that health and healthcare is a much broader issue. Patients try to bring that perspective in, and to some extent we're kind of afraid to look that closely. We're afraid to get that close. As scientists, we're taught to be more objective. As a social scientist, as even physicists know, any kind of observation can affect the whole environment and affect what you're observing. Much more so with patients because, human beings, we're all social. So we need to have that interaction that's much more human. And patients, I think, want to be seen as whole people and want to affect a healthcare process in a way that makes sense so that it doesn't become a burden as much as their disease is. We talk about that a lot in drug development in terms of the toxicities our drugs may have. Now we're finally starting to understand that even our clinical trials can be a burden in the way that we set them up and the demands that we make on patients to come in frequently, to travel long distances. We're starting to understand that if you have more data capture in ways that are more convenient for patients, if you have ways of measuring outcomes that are better for patients, that are less inconvenient or less painful or less invasive, if you have more understandings of surrogate markers and more discussions with regulators about, can't we move this forward so that we don't necessarily have to measure this longer term outcome, moving more towards mutual understanding of a disease that allows for a clinical trial that isn't so difficult, so hard for patients. Understanding ways that we can enable academics and patients to gather data from other patients in patient organizations, but also patients who don't want to be in patient organizations. Finding the ways that they prioritize the endpoints that we might measure and the things that we haven't known to measure. Regulators are taking some steps in that direction. Pharma companies are taking some steps in that direction, and patient organizations themselves are leading more of those efforts and more natural history studies about the diseases that they have or that their organizations represent. All of those are ways that we can bring a better understanding to the table and move the environment forward in a more educated way and in a more socially sensitive way. I think as we come to a better understanding that health isn't just about medicine and just about foreign things that we take into our bodies, but also about natural ways that we live our lives, that we'll also have a better understanding of which medicines need to be developed and which ones maybe we shouldn't put as much resource in, that we should be more focused on other alternatives. I am just very grateful with the level of dedication that people bring, with the level of passion, with the sense that I think all of us are here because we have a deep and fundamental yearning to make a difference in people's lives, and in the lives of people we know and in the lives of people we don't know, but just want, it sounds kind of high-minded, but want the world to be a better place in very fundamental ways.